YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back. And we got some breaking news today. And kind of unexpected. The expected part, Yannick Ngakoue did get traded. We kind of expected that to happen, at least most of us. But to the Minnesota Vikings, which was a little bit surprising. They did have a need there, but did not expect him to land there. We'll talk about that a little more, the trade details, and my grades and what to expect here in a second. 60K, that's our subscriber goal, trying to hit that early in the NFL season. It starts next week, next Thursday there, a week from this Thursday. So really excited. We'll have full coverage, weekly picks, score predictions, updated power rankings, plenty more here at the Goat House. So you're going to want to subscribe, turn notifications on. Be much appreciated. Check out that Twitter. Always talking about breaking news like this first there. Always talking during live games constantly throughout the year. You're going to want to follow that. Instagram, more active on that as season kicks off. Then we have the podcast. And we have the Patreon with bonus content. You can also join our fantasy league through that. But plenty of bonus content during the season and during draft season there. So link in the description in the comments for any of that there that you may need. Moving on to the actual trade, Yannick Ngakoue goes to the Minnesota Vikings. And the Jaguars get a second-round pick this year, a fifth-round pick next year that can turn into a third or a fourth. It turns into a fourth if he's a first ballot Pro Bowler. It turns into a third if he is that, plus the Vikings win the Super Bowl. Weird. We've seen that from time to time, but kind of an interesting trade. But I think the Vikings fans are happy with that. If they have to give up a third round pick, a second and a third, that means they got a Pro Bowler and they won the Super Bowl. So I think, including myself here, I think all the Vikings fans are pretty happy with that if that's the case. But this is exactly what I expected, actually, not to where he went, but the compensation expected. I was predicting, actually, a couple weeks ago, the Jets a second and a fifth. He goes to the Vikings second and a fifth. That could change a bit. So kind of expected. Is that where his value is at? I think his value is more than that. I think we all do. But because the Jaguars didn't really have much leverage, they were going to have a guy that was going to sit around. And then you got to get something out of nothing, which they did, so which is good. You got two pass rushers already in there. You drafted Clavon Chason to add Josh Allen. And the Vikings, which had a need there, that was kind of a big problem of mine with the Vikings recently, if you've been watching the videos, is we know they have a good defense. They always have, but it's taken a little bit of a hit, and mainly because I was a little worried about the pass rush. Danielle Hunter is great, continues to get better, but I was thinking too much on him. A lot of carrying going on with that pass rush in general, and maybe more double teams than we're used to seeing. Because what's lacking on the other side, Odenigbo was pretty impressive last year as a rotation guy, but not a proven guy really. And a very important spot of the defense, the most important spot, pass rush, you can't really be afraid to get better. And that's what I love about the Vikings here. They use the rest of that cap space to get better in important spots. So take some pressure off Hunter. Hunter takes some pressure off Ngakoue. That's going to be a fun duo to watch, hopefully for years to come. Ngakoue still needs to be extended long term. Another thing to keep in mind. Let's show the Vikings grade here. I gave the Vikings an A, and this could be an A plus. It also could go down. This is kind of if they do extend them long term, which I ended up going an A because I think they will. I don't think they trade those picks if they don't think they can. I think they already kind of talked about this. So I think they expect to sign him long term. If they don't, then this is kind of going the complete opposite way. You kind of just traded for a rental, which that rental could work out if they win the Super Bowl. He plays great or something like that. But I usually make these grades, instant grade reactions. Me kind of expecting him to be around, I'm going to go with an A, less than the value, even though it was expected. This is a big step for them because with just Danielle Hunter out there, the pass rush is just relying on him a little too much, and it makes them that much better. So I think they don't have to the offenses don't have to focus on one guy. This is big time. Another thing, they were only able to afford him because he actually took a pay cut this year. We're supposed to get around $17 million off that tag, down to around $13 million, maybe even down to 12. Don't have the exacts right now, but in that range. And that's crazy. That's big time. That's pretty cheap for a guy like Yannick Ngakoue. We see what the pass rushers are getting these days. Clowney, I think, is demanding at least 15, at the very least around $15 million. We'll see what happens with him. But we see what the edge rushers get, ridiculous amount of money. So they got a player that wants to be there, which is some people thought maybe he's not happy with the tag. He wanted more than $17 million. It turns out it's really not the case. Maybe he wanted more from that. Maybe he didn't want to play for the Jags either way. Maybe he wanted more if it was from the Jags. So this is great for the Vikings. Hopefully he's there long term, which I think he will be. So I give it an A here. I think anybody that was going to trade for Yannick Ngakoue was going to be big. Here's a major factor as well. The draft class coming up, you got Gregory Rousseau from Miami. Pretty big prospect, pretty big-time prospect. That's about it. There are some other guys that can play, don't get me wrong, but this is one of the weaker, expected to be one of the weaker edge rush classes in terms of the prospects we've seen maybe ever. So this was big for anybody that needed another pass rusher for the future here. So I think this is big time for the Vikings. Pretty surprising. The Jags, I gave a B-, a tough one to grade here. I still, anything in the B range, I still consider good, so I gave him a good grade. Why? Because they got something out of pretty much nothing, even though he was once something. Pretty much nothing because he wasn't going to play. And they got around what I thought he would get, but then he is a little less than the actual value, but it was expected. But I can't bump up to an A because they got what it was expected. Another thing is we really don't know who they talked to, what exactly went on. We do know they've definitely talked to other teams. We think the Jets were involved, and they might have waited a little too long, kind of holding hope that he would play or maybe a better offer would come along. The Vikings are, I think worst case scenario for the Vikings, best case scenario for the Jaguars is with that second round pick. They're picking probably in the middle, so that is best case, I think, for the Jaguars. Somewhere right in the middle, but probably towards the backside of the second round compared to other teams that had the cap space and were desperate for pass rush. Probably offered at, like the Jets I brought up, maybe like the Giants. Those teams probably be a little earlier of a pick, but we really don't know who called exactly, what was offered, when it was offered. I think they kind of sat around a little too long here. We've seen teams make the mistake of that. We've seen the Washington football team with Trent Williams. Teams kind of make the Panthers kind of waited around with Cam Newton a little too long where they had nothing left to do but cut him. Maybe the Rams with Todd Gurley. So I think teams make the mistake of holding hope and kind of holding on a little too long, and that kind of drives down maybe the price a little bit, not too much in this case. So I did give them kind of back and forth, some good. They got some on nothing, some that I think they could have done better. Maybe not today. Today this was the best offer. Obviously they didn't just take the worst or the second best offer. Today this was the best offer. I'm just thinking there was probably some better options they had in the past. So that's pretty interesting to think about. But they're loading up on draft picks. This could be a team of the future because of the young talent they're bringing in and what they're loading up on. So we'll see what that. It's probably going to be a second and a fifth. Maybe a second and a fourth. I don't know if I see that second and a third. I hope so. Maybe being a Vikings fan, but I don't think that's going to be the case there this year. So I think Jaguars fans probably expect the second and the fifth around there. But Yannick Ngakoue playing with Daniel Hunter, maybe can be that top-tier pass rusher to be first ballot Pro Bowl. We'll see. I'm going to give the Jags a B- here, and that'll be my grade. So it's crazy. Was not expecting that at all. I can't wait to see Ngakoue and Daniel Hunter there at the edge rush position for the Vikings. Looking at the NFC North, I said it all offseason, it's super, super tight. I think all four teams, not exactly even, but even in terms of their chances to win it, I think so. I think people are sleeping on the Bears and the Lions a little bit, but I think the Packers were slight favorites for me. For the Vikings, could it be enough? Now they got to go out and execute. We know they have talent on their roster. I feel like they've had that. It's just kind of going out and executing there. So it's going to be a battle in the NFC North, and this made things interesting. The pass rush in general in the NFC North is absolutely ridiculous. So I can't wait for football to start in general. Can't wait to see this pass rush duo. So you guys can let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments, your grades, if you want to grade each team in the comments. That would be great. We got plenty of these videos on the channel, plenty more to come. Got to do my final season predictions. Those are on the way with one more week of off-season videos, and then we'll get into our weekly routine during the season, which is my favorite. So I cannot wait. Please like if you enjoyed, subscribe, turn notifications on. We much appreciate it. That's going to do it for this one. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.